And welcome everyone to another episode of Trick and Chaos Presents Wasted Potential.
Yeah,
I'm your host
this is gonna.
Soul, and this is my co-host M.
We're in for a fun trip.
Oh yes, before we get right down to our next episode, I have a few announcements to make. One that I hope to help the show and raise the quality just a tiny bit. Doing this weekly has been a bit of a challenge with some things to come up. So
Yeah.
we are going to try doing this bi-weekly, and I'm trying to get a bit of a reserve in my computer just in case, so I have some videos put up in case something else comes up, because life is chaotic at the best of times.
Is that why we called ourselves Triggering Chaos?
Yeah, one of the many reasons.
Yeah, I suppose so.
But so I do have a few saved up so far. This will only add to it. But, I will be making note of this in the previous videos that I put up, but this is when it officially started at the recording of this. So just wanted to let you all know. So we're not dropping the show. We're just taking time to try and make improvements.
Yeah. And the next thing is we're also going to try and reduce the number of images we used. There's just we went a little bit crazy with Bleach, then we tried to keep up afterwards.
Yeah, it gets to the point where I think we're losing focus of the show, because it
Yeah.
originally started as just us talking as a recording,
Yeah.
and I thought a nice thing would be to have a few images to put up there. And I mean, I understand why we did it with Bleach, because we were covering all the
So much.
arcs.
And plus, Bleach just had so much ready available images thanks to the Bleach Wiki, which thank you people who managed the Bleach Wiki. Your people are fantastic. But when we got to other series such as Berserk and Gundam, their wikis were not to the
Well,
same image quality.
yeah, and Berserk also had other issues that I did not want to show up. So
Yeah, to be fair, Berserk had images we did not want to show, even if we could find them.
yes,
But it got to the point during Gundam was slightly delayed because I had to find images, so I was ripping from my DVD collection.
yeah, and I
And
think you would want to try and do that with a few images, which I'm fine with, but maybe not
yeah,
overhaul it. But having
yeah,
that little bit of extra time with your days off, because we actually do have jobs, so
yeah, we're
that can even
both
get crazy at times.
full-time workers and we both work very different shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, we have different time zones. He's an hour and a half behind me.
Oh, look at you, Mr. Future Man.
Future! I can tell you one thing, the future looks grim.
But I think having some extra time to ourselves to try and get everything set up.
Hmm.
I'm looking into a couple other things that we do for the show as well that may pop in and out for various things
Hmm.
that will be put up, maybe even live set for the show if we get around to it. But just know that we're just trying to take the extra time just to try and make the show what we want it to be, the best that it can be.
Yeah, and if anyone comes by and enjoys it, that's the bonus.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone has any constructive criticism, we're welcome to hear it.
Or if anybody knows some tips and tricks for OBS and other things like that, I'll be more than happy to take any help I can get.
Yeah, we are completely untech savvy.
At least I know I am.
I know I'm not. I know I have no tech skills.
The only tech skill I have is so outdated. I think the tablet I chilled it on is broke in half.
I could handle a floppy disk.
All right, but enough about that. Let's get on to the fun part. Are you ready for the big reveal, folks?
Yeah.
We're going into the Sonic comics.
Well, to be fair, we're into the Archie comics, not the IDW. Not that the IDW comic is absolutely flawless, although I think it is personally the best Sonic writing we've ever gotten. That's my opinion. You're allowed to disagree, but I'm just going to say up front here, a lot of my problems and a fair bit of Soul's problems are tied to one gentleman, a Mr. Ken Penders.
Now, we will
You,
talk
you,
about him shortly, but this.
yes, I just want to say this right now. If you like how he wrote Sonic, that is cool. Enjoy it. I hated how he wrote Sonic, and I also hated how he handled things after he left Archie. I have very sour opinions of him, but I wish him no harm. I just don't wish to see him.
Mm-hmm. Now, again, I like to. As I said, this is one of those parts that, like I said, this is not going to be a personal attack. So our criticism will be focused on the character and art style in the comic itself.
Yes.
Which, as one of the, I believe you said he was the writer for the Archie stuff.
He did draw for a while too for Archie, I
Okay.
believe.
He was
but he
involved in a
was
lot of it.
he was the longest writer. He was almost up until issue 160, I believe.
Okay.
Like from the third, I forget when he actually started, but he took over and he was basically the uncontrolled writer of Sonic for the longest time. He had a couple of mandates from Sega, so he wrote Knuckles the Echidna as the main character.
Yeah, this had a couple of spin-offs, if I remember right.
Yes, and I'm just gonna say this: he is a very interesting fellow. He is well known for just being sue happy right now, as in suing whoever he thinks is using his characters that aren't really his characters, but nobody really wants to fight him in court because it's just not worth it.
Okay, but that's where we'll end it there.
We'll get to that if we have to get to it, but
Yeah. As I
yeah,
said, that any issues outside of the comic book is not
yeah, we'll
here.
try not to. There are a few issues, but that's not important right now.
Yeah. So, the comic that currently was known as was Sonic Universe. I think this was their last title before going to IDW.
It was their side title. Well, they had the main title, Sonic Comics, and if they wanted to do anything where Sonic wasn't the main character, they did it in Sonic Universe.
Ah, okay. So this is where my characters were really prevalent,
Yes,
in, if I remember
yes.
correctly.
This was a series started by Ian Flynn, the current writer of Sonic in IDW. It's his spin-off series.
Okay.
This is when I found out that the Sonic comics were good.
I would have to agree with that then, because this, with this side step that was going on with the universe stuff,
Mhm.
I really liked a lot of what was going on in here.
Yeah,
The characters, the setup, the stories,
yes,
and character interaction was fantastic too.
yeah.
So let's take a sneak peek real quick before we go much farther into the world of Sonic.
You might want to zoom up a bit.
Yep.
Yeah,
Now, I can't really place what this looks like.
I'm gonna say legally distinct Pangea.
Works for me. Because
Yeah,
North Amar and South
that
America, can't place it. Nope.
Thunder looks normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was back when they gave Sonic's World a name besides being Earth or Sonic's World. This is Mobius.
Which I like the name of.
Hey, I don't dislike Mobius's name. I do find it just being called Sonic's World kind of lazy, but that's Sega of Japan's mandates now.
I mean, I get it. They were trying to avoid certain issues,
Yes,
for lack of better pointing it.
yes. The thing is, I've learned something fairly interesting. Back in the day, when Sonic the Hedgehog was brand new, Sega Japan told Sega of Europe and Sega of America to make Sonic your character in a sense, so he doesn't feel like he's an import character from Japan. So the European Sonic has a different continuity than the North American Sonic
Oh
did.
god, that the European
Which is-
Sonic. Oh.
Yeah, we don't want to get into Fleetway right now. I do understand why people like Fleetway though. But anyway, the Japanese Sonic was very different. The thing is, they did this to ensure, like I said, that he didn't feel like like an import character. He could be cool no matter where he was. This didn't really work too well in Japan, to my understanding, because he felt like he was an import from the North American side to Japan. He was co-developed by people around the world, so
I mean, the
It does
one we
make-
got in the States and stuff was I thought fine.
yeah. This comic is heavily based off the Sonic Sat AM cartoon. It is not a continuation. It is based off.
It's sort of
Sorry.
like the comic book is Universe A, the cartoon is Universe B. They're parallels, but they're two different universes.
Technically, it's Universe C because it's also originally based off the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, that wacky gag cartoon.
We do not talk about that.
Actually, it's not as bad as people make it out to be.
No.
It's not. It's not Sonic Underground though. That is as bad as people say it is.
Well, that's Universe D.
No, that's Universe. Look, a trash can.
No, Universe D for dumb.
No, if you like Sonic Underground, go ahead and enjoy it. I just,
Yeah.
I don't think it's very well done.
But so our first major change here is that Robotnik's got a city.
He also kind of won.
Yeah.
That's the main difference. Is what takes from Sonic SatAM is this is supposed to be a resistance show, like where the rebels fighting against the evil dictator.
Hmm.
Where it took from the other cartoon is in the first few issues, it was also kind of, oh, aren't we wacky?
Yeah, it was kind of a wacky, kind of like an actual like Bugs Bunny Saturday cartoon kind of set up for the comics at the
Yeah,
start.
yeah. It was, here's a really dark setting. We put a bunch of gag characters in there, including the main villainous gags.
Hmm.
When they started being more serious, it started to get good. Like when Archie got first serious, it was kind of good for its age. It eventually mutated into a soap opera.
And this is pretty much a
Not whole.
little later.
Yeah.
This is
This is
not
where
Whole Village.
this is where the freedom fighters remain.
This is a little bit after I think the second Robotnik or the first Robotnik got taken out, because I know there was
Yeah.
not as advanced in the first opening.
Yeah. They're literally like living in underground in knot holes,
Hmm.
where it got the name from.
But in general, Sonic has not really changed that much design wise.
He was at the start of the comic, he was this Genesis bit more pudgy design, but as Sega marched forward, Sonic marched with them. I don't think they really gave an explanation where his eye color changed, but him getting thinner makes more sense.
If
More
I
lean.
remember right, and feel free that I could be wrong,
Hmm.
I think it had to do with one of his adventures with the Chaos Energy.
Probably did.
Because I believe it was because he had like three major adventures with the Chaos.
Mm.
There's always his first time going supersonic. The time he collected his 1 billionth ring was a loop.
That had something to do with more of his turning into a robot, but down the
And
road.
I believe there's other adventures that involve chaos energy, but I think that's where his green eye
Yeah,
color came from.
they had lots of opportunity to explain it away if they needed to.
Mm-hmm.
Is the point?
So, but overall, he has never, like, he's always had
Yeah.
his red and white shoes, his gloves,
And
quills, and
this is the series that really cemented Sonic's Daredevil-like attitude, where
Mhm.
he's very reactionary, very snarky, very I don't need to think about something when I can move the speed I do. I can just kind of find my way out. And to be fair, this is still one of the better design or personalities Sonic has ever had. I'm
Mhm.
not too fond of the current personality he has, thanks to Sega's mandate, where he has to be the flawless hero. That's kind of boring to me. Essentially, here he is a punk teenager fighting against the big bad, rebelling against tyranny. Nowadays, he's basically Superman the Hedgehog.
I mean, what it really felt like, it was, he, as you said, he was a teenager and he was growing up as pretty much in a war. So
Yeah.
to have
He
him have some maturity would not be outside of it.
Unfortunately, when he got over emotional like a teenager would, Sega cracked down, saying he's not allowed to cry anymore. He's no longer allowed to be wrong. He's allowed to get lessons, but never lose, kind of things.
Pretty
Where
much a
in,
Gary Stu at some points.
yeah, he feels like a Gary Stu or Superman at his worst. Like, I'm not saying Superman is boring. I'm saying bad writers make Superman this guy on the hill declaring all the right answers at once, and you're like, oh yeah, thanks, Superman.
Yeah,
This he's also not allowed to date anymore because of Archie's comics being too much of a soap opera with all his rotating girlfriends, which, I get why they don't like it. I don't think Sonic needs to date, but I also understand that he's a teenager. His hormones are also going to be a thing.
not only that, it is kind of odd that he wouldn't, of all things. It's not that I don't think he should find the one,
Mm.
but I
I
mean,
mean, he could be aromantic. I mean, that's a thing, but there's just something about Sonic's design that does not scream asexual or aromantic. And this is coming from an asexual. I think Sonic, it's okay for Sonic to date, but I get why Sega doesn't want that. But I don't agree with it.
so we have our little buddy here also. He's making a strong comeback, and he's making a couple of strong comebacks in the series, actually.
Yeah. In the Archie, he started off as just too young to help. He just followed Sonic's shadow, worshipped him.
Mhm.
Just a little, just your little kid brother who, you know, you would give the second player controller to
Yeah.
when it's a one player game. Is what he
And
came
then we
across him.
found out he had a great destiny foretold by the ancients. No,
Please tell me you did not include the image of Titan Tails.
I didn't.
Good. That's a whole kettle of fish we don't need to get into. See,
But
if we did, that would be one of the other problems with Archie comic is when Archie gets weird, it gets.
yeah, if you want something weird and stupid, go look up Titan Tales.
Mhm.
But that brings me to an interesting point. I like the idea that Tails had some great unforetold destiny,
Oh yeah,
but he was still learning how to live up to that destiny. He was learning from
yeah,
Sonic and the others
yeah.
to
I
eventually.
like. See, the thing is, I'll say this much about the Sonic comics compared to one of our other favorite franchises, Mega Man X. They could put the spotlight on other characters, but you always remembered who the main character was.
Hmm.
Where in the X games, it basically just became Zero Series before it became the Zero Series.
Unfortunately, yeah.
I
But
mean, a couple times they put X back in the spotlight, but they weren't very good at consistency.
no, that was not.
No.
But he also developed into the character that you would see in like Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 of being, well, genius.
A genius and believing in himself, an actual solo hero.
Hmm. He developed it's from his lessons he learned with the Freedom Fighters
Yeah.
that allowed him to grow into the person that he would have later be to be his own self-styled hero.
Hmm.
He learned his limits, he learned what he can do, and he
And he
wasn't
learned it.
afraid to push certain limits to try and be better.
Yep. And it was reasonable why he did that. He had a good role model in Sonic.
Hmm.
But he also was able to learn that some of Sonic's decisions are stupid.
Hmm. And it's
And
proper. He also learned that just because you did things right doesn't mean you're going to win in the end.
mhm,
That is what makes it life. You can do everything right and still lose.
yep.
So, and our next character would be
Oh,
Sally Acorn.
poor Sally. She is probably the biggest loss we have. Now, quick clarification. IDW could put Sally in the comics right now. Sega has said no. So no matter what IDW, Ian, or any of the writing staff do with that comic, they can't put Sally in until Sega says, okay.
Which I
Sally is the princess of the kingdom that Robotnik took over. She's the leader of the Freedom Fighters, but she's also a teenager, and I like that about her.
mhm. She's also the responsible one of the group,
Yeah, she's
and
the only one who can basically wrangle in Sonic.
and pretty much the de facto leader of the group as well. Sonic
Yeah,
is the rash hero,
yeah.
but she is the leader.
Sonic is the reactionary type. Sally is the type to go,
Mhm.
okay, if we want to win the day, we have to take these strategic points.
She
Don't
also
just go
yep, good.
go running off on your own, guys. We need
Hmm.
to do this as a team. But I also understand that Sonic is unable to sit still for more than 5 minutes, so we'll let him take care of base C all by himself. He can go do that right now. I thought we didn't need base C. We don't, but a distraction's very useful.
She also realizes the strength of all her companions.
She boosts them up. She knows how to help them up.
Hmm. She knows what she's doing as a leader, and
Yep.
at times she's even crushed by her eventual
Responsibility, yeah.
role in the leadership. Because let's face it, leading a rebellion and running a kingdom are two very different things.
Especially when you're not even an adult yet.
Hmm. And so
You
her
know,
other quest is to find her missing father.
yeah, because find her dad, maybe put him back on the throne. Things will just get better.
Hmm.
Because there still is some naivete to her character, which I liked. And
Her naivete really starts early on and then just kind of tapers off like
yeah,
appropriately.
yeah, because expectations keep getting shattered, and she has to pick up the pieces and keep running.
Hmm.
She's not afraid. She's the kind of leader who's not afraid to, pick up and run if things go sour. She's not like We must make our last stand.
Too
No, she's
bad the last time I saw her, she was roboticized.
yeah. That's one of my downsides. Is I really wanted that story to finish properly, but Sega and Archie had a falling out. Let's just put it at that.
Yeah, you can find some very well made fan
Yeah.
comics that are still ongoing out there. They're
Hmm.
continuing from that story.
Yep.
So if you can find a really good one, put it into the link. I'd read it myself.
There are a lot of good ones out there. Ones I keep finding just keep getting, you know, unfinished because the creators have to continue on with their lives because they're not being paid to make these,
Mm-hmm.
which is fair. But overall, Sally is the second biggest loss from Archie to IDW. She would fit in incredibly well in IDW. She should have been in Forces.
I think they
Um,
actually had some artwork for her, but because Sega said no, they never implemented it.
yeah, they've. I think the artist has them in their own personal portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, if you played Sonic Forces, Amy Rose kind of took her role. Not to the same degree. Like if it had been Archie or Archie Sally in that position, she would have handled things differently. But
The end result would have been about the same.
pretty much, yeah.
Like that's no
It,
slight to Amy. It's just it is what it is.
I
Like
mean,
there's no other
I
way
I,
you would have handled that situation.
I liked how Amy was handled in Forces, but I still think it should have been Sally.
So
Honestly, that would have been a big boon for
yeah,
Forces.
but she is, as we said, de facto leader, a solid
Yeah.
character. Had
Oh, and originally Sonic's main squeeze.
mm-hmm.
And you will still see people die hard shipping these two to this day. That's not my ship for Sonic, but I am also looking over that ship going, that is a well-made vessel. It'll survive many a storm.
To be fair, it was well written. They had their issues. It wasn't like they were the perfect couple.
No,
Like
there's
they were
the
teenagers in hell. Well, not hell, but
in war.
yeah,
Well, in PG war.
yeah.
Because and the infamous Sally slapping Sonic image is well known for the Sonic fan base, and also is one of the reasons why Sonic is not allowed to date anymore because it caused a small controversy among the fans. But I just need to lean in real close and whisper something to Sega. Everything about Sonic is controversial to some people.
Yeah, I mean, it only really happened because Sally had her heart broken because she thought that with everything going well, excuse me,
Hmm.
sorry, I had to clear my throat.
Hooray for a cough button.
It came down to the point that Sally, everything was going well. They found her father. Not Robotnik was less of a threat. I don't know if he was taken out at that time.
Hmm.
And she thought she and Sonic could, well, make it.
Settle down, in a sense.
Yeah. Sonic was not ready for 3 reasons. One, it's Sonic. He's a teenager. Not
Yep.
gonna argue that. Two,
Because
if he did take this step, he would have been king of Not Hole. Even he knew he wasn't ready for that one.
no.
I mean, he would have supported Sally as all hell, but he knew he was not the one to take that role yet. I mean, there is side stories of where he did take that step and became king, but that was probably a couple years later in this life.
It's called Sonic 30 years later.
Yeah, so somewhere in that 30 years, it happened.
Yeah.
But at the time that she proposed all this, no.
What was the third reason?
I think that might have been Robotnik was still out there. But I could be wrong. But I think those were the 3 reasons. Could be
Yeah,
wrong in
that's
some
fair.
of those, but I think the first 2 are the strongest ones. Because it's been a while since I read that.
And that's actually one of the reasons why I don't ship Sonic and Sally. I don't think they could, like, compromise. He needs to always be wandering. She needs this rule. There's no happy middle between that.
At the time it happened, no. At the 30
No.
after like 30 years, maybe. But
Yeah, Sonic would have to mature and also learn some patience to sit still, which
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever really going to get that, but that's my interpretation. Feel free to disagree with it.
I think it comes down to what age group you throw him in. But
That's fair.
regardless, it here and there.
Yeah.
Now moving on, this is one of my favorite characters actually. This is Uncle Chuck, Sonic's uncle in his human form. I
Or
say that
animal
because
form. He was a
Or
robot for a while.
yeah.
Now, here's a small bit of tidbit information for you from Sega. If Chuck is ever to be referenced ever again, he has to be Sonic's adoptive uncle or honorary uncle. Sonic and the main characters are not allowed to have any familiar ties besides Cream and her mother.
Because God forbid
Oh,
anybody actually have a Smiley family.
yeah, like everyone in the Sonic universe is an orphan and no one talks about it.
And those pile of robot parts back there, we'll get to that in a few moments. But at the start of the original comics, he was roboticized by Robotnik. And the way they actually got through to his uncle was by giving him a power ring, which kind of reverted his mind, but still left him a mechanical body for a while.
Yeah, so he was kind of like their double agent for a while.
Mm-hmm. Best part was, anything he did while he was under the effect of the ring, his robot huff did not know. It was useful.
It was. It was good writing.
Mm-hmm. They used him well. Eventually, what happened was aliens came to the planet and de-roboticized everyone except for Sonic's father. Because he was so injured when they got roboticized, if they undid it, he would have died.
Yeah.
So, yay, aliens.
Mm-hmm. You're going to find out aliens do a lot of things in the Sonic universe.
Yeah, that's not even the strangest thing that ever happened. I mean, there's one time Sonic ran off the planet with a black hole bomb. And survived.
All right, then.
This character is Rotor.
He was the original smart guy of the Freedom Fighters, but eventually got usurped by Tails because that was Tails' character development in the games, and that had to take precedence. He was also one of the team's strong guys. He was bronze and brain. He just wasn't speed.
Yeah. Now, what I liked about the comics is some of the stuff that Tails started doing, he actually started working along with Rotor with. It was kind of good character development for them both.
Yeah.
Rotor getting sort of a protege in Tails, and Tails finding some fun in it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that I can't believe Tails could learn this on his own. There's like enough Egg Band robots parts lying about that he would have to tinker with, but I like the idea of having a mentor more.
Mm-hmm. And I really liked in the crossover comics him, Tails, and Dr. Light working together.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's not that I don't think, as you said, Tails couldn't do this on his own.
It's just nice to have a mentor or someone to bounce ideas off. Rotor also ended up retiring from the Freedom Fighters later on in the series because he was kind of made redundant because of Tails, and they just kind of aged him up and made him retire. He also was the Archie series trying to introduce a gay character. He was in a relationship with another character, but they never actually could say it out loud for a while.
And I never even picked up on that.
No, it's kind of hard to pick up at times. It was a little bit too subtle, one of the creators said. But it was a comic made in the 90s and the early 2000s. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. I also like if you notice on your left, that robot that has kind of looks like a teapot opening up. It's actually kind of a fun side character.
Was that Heavy?
I think that might have been Heavy. Can't remember their exact names.
Oh, there's Heavy and Bombs from Knuckles Chaotix. They were the joke characters or the suicide characters.
Yeah.
Like if you got hit, Bomb would explode. And Heavy was Heavy. It was hard to run with Heavy as your partner.
But yeah, they were kind of a fun duo in the comics as well. So moving on, we also got Antoine,
the French stereotype.
Which I actually found out the reason he has such trouble speaking the language because his mother and father taught him 2 languages at the same time.
Which should actually make him better at it.
Well, no, apparently the way they went about it, from what I understood, is what screwed it up.
Yes, but to be fair, it's actually quite easy to teach a child bilingualism, and it ends up making them extremely good at learning in general. But it has to be done right, and I can't believe it's done wrong, but the way I read how they did it doesn't sound like to be too wrong to him. But at least they tried to give an excuse why he just throws in French terms every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, what I mean by the French stereotype is they did make him a coward in the first ages.
Yeah, but he got better about it.
Because, the French are all surrenderers, not knowing that the French resistance held at the Nazis for so goddamn long. Sorry, it's a pet peeve of mine about the French being surrenderers.
But, he did get better about it, and he was actually his father was actually one of the royal guards for
Yeah,
Princess Sally's father.
yeah, he takes his family heritage of almost being a knight extremely serious. He is also the one to call out Sonic for his shit the most,
Mm-hmm.
which is refreshing. Sonic kind of does need someone to be in the background going, you're an idiot. Because sometimes in the original series, Sonic was an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
But
And
most of Antoine's character development is because of another character, and I love the other character. We'll get to her in a second. But
mm,
overall, Anton did get better. I liked how he was handled in the reboot part of the franchise, but in the early issues, I honestly could not stand him. Every scene he was in felt like he was just making the story worse because he wasn't the "Hey Sonic, you're an idiot." He's "I don't like Sonic, so I'm just going to constantly just get in his way"
mm-hmm.
kind of character because he was trying to impress Sally,
Yep.
and Sally could not notice Antoine if he was on fire at times.
Eh.
I mean,
Sometimes I thought that might have been an improvement at that point.
yeah, I think it would have been for the original Antoine.
But this is the character that made him a better character.
Bunny Rabbit. Yes, because she's a cyborg, they changed her from rabbit to rabbit.
Yeah, they rescued her when she was in mid-roboticization.
That portable robotizer is just so many questions asked.
Yeah.
But anyway, she's the Southern Belle of the group, and I do mean she has a Southern accent.
Mm-hmm.
She even once yelled, "The South will rise again," which, pardon me.
Well, then again, to be fair, she might be referring to something different in her world at the time, but
No, to be fair, that was still back when they were unsure of the world's continuity. And also, apparently, Mobius was future Earth that was nuked.
yeah, but that got changed as well. So go figure.
Yeah, it's confusing. However, when she wasn't doing that, I actually think she's probably one of the best characters the
She's
franchise had.
also in her left arm and her legs the strong man of the group.
Yeah, she was stronger than Boomer. I mean, Rotor. She could almost keep up with Sonic with her rocket feet. Almost is the key word. He was basically the if Sonic can't fix it, let's throw her at it. And Bunny did pretty well. She was very well designed at times, and she and Antoine were in a relationship, and trying to better himself for Bunny made Antoine more likable, and it grounded Bunny, I find, because she does have some existential dread about being half robot.
Yeah, and she can be a bit of a loose cannon at times.
Yeah.
I would just also like to point out one other thing.
Mm.
Antoine's the only one that's actually using a weapon in this resistance.
I mean, Bunny can turn her arm into a Buster Cannon.
Yes, but I'm just saying those might be the only two then. I mean, Sonic's got a spin attack, sure, but
yeah, Sonic don't need no weapon.
Tails flies, and his observation is still young, so I can understand that one. Sally had Nicole, her little personal computer for hacking, but other than that, she was walking around weaponless.
And sometimes just in shoes.
Rotor at least had his inventions to try and work with, so at least he can invent something to kind of defend himself with.
I distinctly remember him using a wrench, but I don't know if that was the reboot for it.
That might have been the reboot, but
yeah,
it's still the point.
Yeah, that's basically it. Nobody else really came packing a defensive weapon.
So,
but yeah, Bunny's another character I do wish we had in the current continuity.
Yeah, we lost about 2/3 of the characters.
Yes,
of just these main ones for the start of the Resistance.
Pretty much.
So
all we have is Sonic and Tails.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about another character that I like in the series that we lost.
This one we lost due to legal shenanigans.
Yes. This is Shard the Metal Hedgehog.
The Metal Sonic.
I was going to get that in a second. This is actually the original Metal Sonic that you come across in the games and the comic.
And the one from the very well animated Sonic OVA.
Yes. The one that is...
The one with the infamous, you might know everything I'm going to do, but I know everything you're going to do. Strange, isn't it? God, the delivery is so weird, and I love it.
But this is the one that was made purely designed after Sonic.
to be as fast, but to be cruel and destroy him. And yeah, I generally like Metal Sonic. And to find out that through a long, long story, the original becomes a hero. I like that.
Because it also bases down that while based off Sonic, he does have intelligence in order to evolve, to
Hmm.
continue pursuing to be better than Sonic. If he was stuck as a simple robot, he never would have been able to.
Yep. He was designed to evolve and copy Sonic. And what's one of the things Sonic is most known for? His
Protecting
heroism.
life, being a hero.
And if that's letting Sonic have the edge in combat, well, maybe he might copy that in a sense.
Hmm. So, in a
And
strange twist in the comics, Metal Sonic, as known at the time, put Sonic through one last test of kidnapping Tails and putting his life in danger to try and challenge Sonic again. It was during this that Shard learned respect for life. So he sacrificed himself to block off the lava, giving Sonic and Tails time to escape. And being pretty much buried alive in lava.
on the plus side, as a machine, he could still be taken, saved, and rebuilt from parts that survived.
Well, the first time he was revived was thanks to that shard in his chest, which is where he got his name. It is actually a piece of chaos embedded into him, and it became part of his circuitry. That is basically his life right there. If you break that shard, he will die.
You might want to put more armor around him.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
I mean, I get it. You want to show off what your name is, but maybe make a decoy of that and put the real one deeper inside.
On a neat trick, he can make his eyes and crystal red or green, depending on what mood he's in. I kind of like that detail.
I like when robots do that. But overall, he ended up becoming what's referred to as a secret freedom fighter. When the heroes had more of a stable home base that was, they actually were on the winning. They needed someone to do Black Ops stuff, so there were the secret freedom fighters, the Black Ops unit,
Mm-hmm.
and he was their speed and their muscle of the Black Ops group.
Mm-hmm. Because he was
And
just about as fast as Sonic, to the point where most things couldn't even detect him.
mhm,
He's
he's
a robot, so automatically stronger than most people.
he's got a blaster cannon for an arm if he wants.
And he can do kind of like the Mega Man thing and have things pop out of there like a shovel, uh, drill.
It's an Omni tool.
Yeah, very useful.
Yeah. The downside is he was not used enough.
Nah, he has
Well,
a severe fear of being buried alive, which I don't blame him on that one.
yeah, I wonder why. Which I find is hilarious that he's not afraid of water like Sonic is, and Sonic's probably not afraid of being buried alive.
No, but I also think it's kind of cool that he has emotions about it.
Yep. But the thing is, uh, when Ken Penders left a couple years later, he came back to Archie saying, "Hey, you're using my characters. I own them." Generally, that's not how it works in comic industry, especially when you're working for a licensed comic.
Mm.
Usually, the company that's licensing out owns everything. So, technically, most situations, Archie wouldn't own Shard. Sega would own Shard. Usually, due to some bad bookkeeping by Archie, Penders won his characters back. And any character that was derived from one of his characters, because he was the one who wrote a Metal Sonic becoming good, no matter what they did with that, Penders kind of won him. He also was the one who said there's more than one Metal Sonic. So Sega says, no, there's only ever one Metal Sonic active at a time. So there can't be more than one Metal Sonic. So because Shard is a Metal Sonic, we lost him before we lost Archie's comics, because they had to do a reboot to remove all of Pender's characters before they could continue on for a
Yeah,
few
there
more issues.
was 2 reboots to the Sonic series.
Yeah.
One involving Mega Man, and I forget when the other one happened.
Mhm. And then there's the great company shift.
Nah, I forget that
Well,
one, but
the great company shift is when it went from Archie to IDW.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you
And
meant
like
in the comics there was
no, no,
okay.
no. Like I've been saying, the original Freedom Fighters were made for the cartoon SatAM.
Mm-hmm.
Sega owns them. So Bunny, Antoine, Rotor, Sally, Nicole, they are all owned by Sega. Shard, all the echidnas, they are all owned by Penders in a sense.
Yeah, mumbo jumbo lawyer stuff.
Yeah,
Moving
and
on.
yeah,
This
is
is
Dr.
the
Ivo
original.
Robotnik.
hmm The original
Okay.
Eggman, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, no, he's not the original Eggman. He's the original Robotnik. He was designed to be Robotnik from the very beginning. Although he is the most egg-shaped of all the
hmm
Robotniks. But this is the maniacal mastermind who took over the world in a sense. He's designed off his Satian counterpart, but for the first few issues, he acted more like the adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog
Mm.
Robotnik, which
But
is
once he
very
got their
charming.
shit together, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, yeah. He's not the most evil villain the franchise has ever had, but
No, but I do
he
like the one
definitely
thing.
belongs at the top.
Yeah, I do like the one thing he did when he was captured. He was trying to do the equation for chaos so that it could stop Sonic from winning.
Hmm.
I mean, that's impressive all on its own because you just see inside of his cell, he's just got all these. He's just sitting there, just muttering something, and he's just going on about the equation for it. Now,
He
this
also
Eggman
eh,
was eventually dealt with.
this Robotnik dies
Mm-hmm.
because they thought the series was going to end after I think it was issue. I forget what issue it was, but eventually they did a multi-part series Endgame where he dies. They
Yep.
almost killed off Sally too in that issue. They thought they were never going to continue this franchise. Sega was like looking over like, shit, this is making us oodles and oodles of money. Keep going.
So if we kill off one villain, let's replace him with his counterpart.
This is Dr. Ivo Robotnik or Mecha Robotnik from another parallel universe where he turned himself into a robot and then realized I can take over this world too, and then came over to take over this world and failed and failed and failed, and then eventually had to rebuild his body into that design, which was a robot. But then aliens turned him into an organic. He was upset by that. But this is the one that's heavily based off the game counterpart. This is the one that actually will answer to Dr. Eggman, because you're gonna call me Dr. Eggman. Screw you. I'm gonna take that name as my own. I'm gonna make
Yeah.
you fear Dr. Eggman, and he kind of does.
Yeah, when he's actually focusing on it.
Yeah.
He kind of has all the qualities of every Eggman, as far as I'm aware.
Yes.
Like when
He's more flippant depending on the writer.
Mm-hmm. But I also find that when he's actually focused, he can be quite underhanded.
Yeah, he
When
can.
he's busy yelling at everybody, that's when he kind of loses it.
Yeah.
And I do love if you ever play, I think it was Generations,
Mm.
when the old Robotnik talks to young Robotnik in the video game,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and young
That's
Robotnik just looks up to old Robotnik's like, "This is what I become."
well, that's more classic game versus modern game.
I
That
know,
has
but I just still love that scene.
I know.
It just makes me laugh.
My favorite part is Dr. Robotic. Nobody calls me that anymore.
What did they call you?
Dr. Eggman. That's how the joke works. So why'd you make me explain the joke? I keep telling you, if the Joker was real, he would have bust down your door and would have smashed you with a hammer.
Dude, he could have a lot more reasons than just that to kill me.
No, that's gonna be his number one reason.
Oh, it's gonna be his number one reason. He's still gotta have like a shit ton more. And I just included this just to show you the genetic enemy for the start of this show. This is what is called a SWAT bot.
I don't really care for the SWAT bots. I get why people love them though, but for me, they don't. They lack the same personality as the game's counterpart, the Egg Pawns. The Egg Pawns, well, Eggman will dress them up depending on the location. Like if they're in a casino, he'll put on little bunny ears and little bow ties on them. I find that cute and adorable, and it makes it more horrifying when they're designed to be cuter and then they're just destroying you.
I mean, I think it was at the start. They just needed some simple design to kind of be the foot soldiers.
Yes, and I can definitely say the SWAT bots are a iconic design.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care for them. I get why people like them. I get why they were designed this way. I imagine these are much easy to animate, and the egg ponds had not been designed until the 2000s.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess this was just for easy animation. They had that they knew what they were working with.
They transferred very easily to the comics.
Mm-hmm. And they just something, for lack of a better point, the copy and paste, really.
Yeah.
Like something that you can believe that if he's building an army, he just built them to just have the numbers.
Well, I personally prefer the badniks, the little robot animals that aren't the roboticized animals.
Mm-hmm.
God, that's confusing.
Yeah, I know, right?
these do feel much more militarian, and it works for comic Robotnik, but it doesn't work for game or modern comic Dr. Eggman.
Yeah.
They lack his personality. Like I love in the IDW continuity when one character asked Dr. Eggman, "Why do you build so many casinos?" And his response is, "I can build whatever I want. Why should I build something that that makes it fun for me?
Yeah, makes point.
If I want to kill you and the last thing you hear is carnival music and the smell of cotton candy, that's the last thing you're going to see and hear."
I mean, the only thing I could say about it is at least with some of the swap outs, at least there was somewhat of a different design depending upon the role and where they were.
And they generally had different color schemes. They were usually all black in the comics, from what I
Mhm.
remember. But I do like how they could have different coloring for different locations. It makes me think of, well, I'm a Gundam fan. It makes me think of the Zaku's.
Yeah. But like I said, it was just something I think they just wanted to design the easy copy and paste. You could recognize it right away and
Mm,
not ask too many questions about it being blown up or
yeah.
destroyed in a sense.
And I do think the idea of these did inspire the egg pawns for the later games.
Mm. But like I said, because the
I
not
think
the
I think
humans, the not creatures, the
Mobians.
Mobians is what they were called, were being roboticized. Destroying them was not good for the freedom fighters, so they went out of their way
Yeah,
not to
because
do that.
we're looking
So
for a
the show gave them
undo's.
something else to smash, essentially.
I think the reason why I don't care for them is they don't scream Robotnik or Eggman.
I kind of disagree, only because I grew up with the TV show that kind of feels more
Yeah,
original.
yeah, you do, but if I showed it to someone who's never heard of Sonic the Hedgehog and say, "This, which do you think, the Eggpon or the SWATbot? Which looks like this guy's lackeys?"
Fair point. I can't argue that one.
And I think that's why, because I didn't really watch the cartoon, and the comics I did read at Archie didn't actually have many SWATbots in them, and they were usually quite blunderous in my opinion.
Yeah, well, the first Sonic I had the SWAT bots, but it was one of the really early issues. So,
I mean, the first issue I read, which showed the image, has Amy's cousin, which is just Sonic, but Robin Hood.
oh yeah, I forgot about him.
Yeah, I did not like him. The reason why I actually was able to read Sonic comics as a small tad bit because Archie was publishing Sonic, and Archie could release Archie's comics in drugstores. My Shoppers Drug Mart carried all the Archie lines,
Hmm.
so Sabrina, Archie, Jughead, and Sonic. So I actually could grab a few issues every now and then.
Yeah, I did the same actually at a store, convenience store up the street from my house.
And I can tell you they weren't very entertaining. And I was a big Sonic fan. I wanted everything Sonic, and I was reading these comics like this is not Sonic. This is just some weird Knuckles stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't hate Knuckles. I just wasn't interested in him.
Speaking of which, going of weird stuff, this is Mecha Sonic. This is when Sonic got roboticized. I think he also got some upgrades added onto that one.
This also is right around the time when the comic was starting to go from goofy to serious. Robotnik's still kind of goofy in here. Like he sends Metal Sonic to destroy his friends without adding a tracking device to him, a monitoring device, or any way of locating the hidden village. He just sends Sonic to go do it.
And this also shows this is where the comic also got really off track sometimes.
Yeah. The art is good, but I think the design it's a little over designed. Like the pointless squares and lines all over the arms and the ear
Hmm.
things. Bit much, but overall I like the design of the feet. I like the laser blasters on the arm.
I think this was a good measure of both.
Yeah, it's
Like,
I think what I think is if the artist had just stopped at like the 85% complete mark, it would have been perfect.
yeah, some of the, like you said, the lines and the gauntlets maybe reduced that a little bit. But really,
On
that's the only thing I can really say about it.
the one on the weird orbs for ears. Mm,
Yeah, that kind of is a little weird too. I mean, the orders for arms kind of works because for
yeah,
mobility, but
it makes me think of like ball joints, like literal balls for joints. It makes me think he has mobility to him.
take the ear orbs off and about I would say about take off 20% of the lines on his hands and arms.
And on his head.
Well, the head's fine to me. That's not as heavily lined
Okay,
as
okay,
his hands and gauntlets, I should say.
that's fair. But yeah, this was just a fairly good issue back in the day. I've
Mm.
actually read it.
Because the other funny thing is that the Freedom Fighters got a roboticizer working, but without
It's,
the
it's-
brainwashing.
yeah, so they sent Knuckles to fight him as Mecha Knuckles, and while a really good idea, it wasn't handled extremely well. Like original Archie had some good ideas, but nobody knew really how to finish the plot. If that makes
And
any sense.
the only reason this even came to an end is because they came hurtling head towards one of robotics factories. Sonic, having some portion of himself still in there, took the brunt of the explosion, and then they both got de-roboticized from the Freedom Fighters.
Oh, by the way, they could de-roboticize Knuckles because they had the same machine that did it, which is the one that roboticized Bunny, but they couldn't un-roboticize Bunny.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And Sonic, well, Deus Ex Machina was basically how it got undone.
Yeah, they pretty much powered up the internal shield in his mind that kept him from being fully roboticized and just expanded across his body for all I remember.
Yeah.
But I think
Anyway,
Bunny was also didn't want to because she thought she'd be less helpful to the Freedom Fighters, which is pure organic
no,
at that point.
not at that point. She was
Uh,
very much interested in being normal. It was that was a much better plot later on.
okay.
But surprise, surprise, that was Ian.
Yeah, because I remember she also at one point had like a robotic suit for emergencies, but
No, that was the anti-Bunny.
might be remembering wrong.
Yep, I might be remembering wrong. We didn't even get to that, but there are the anti-freedom fighters.
Yeah, they're pretty much just from a parallel world where they're the evil ones.
Yeah,
So
which is where the fan favorite character Scourge the Hedgehog came from. And because Ken Penders created Evil Sonic, he owns every version of Evil Sonic.
ugh.
Again, you're allowed to like Ken Penders' writing, but his legal shenanigans and his political views greatly upset me.
Okay, let's just get to him and get it out of the way.
He introduced a character named Joffrey, who was supposed to be a rival to Sonic and Sally's affection. Joffrey was 20, Sally was 16.
Now, let me be clear. This is not a personal attack towards Penders. This is about his work with the Sonic comic. And I'm not even gonna bother reading this. You can read this for yourselves. But yeah,
He,
there are just some questionable things here.
yeah, he also defended himself by saying, well, in this state, it would have been legal.
And as you can tell by the date, this isn't even that long ago.
Yeah. The thing is, he kind of at times forgot he was writing for children. Like, we make fun of Sonic being for children, but it is a series for kids,
Hmm.
which causes some writing limitations, unfortunately.
And of course, he
Some I
uses
don't.
an iPhone.
Yeah. He also, like I've been hinting at, he does not like anyone taking his characters. On the left is his Joffrey character. On the right is the character Ruff the Skunk.
I don't even see a resemblance at all.
Well, because I created the idea of a skunk Mobian, is pretty much his argument. Here's the thing. Even if, okay, discounting their skunks, Ruff is basically Bebop from Bebop and Rocksteady or Jesse from the Team Rocket. He's a flunky grunt who's not very smart. Joffrey is a triple agent spy with his own agenda of basically seizing power. Ruff just wants big guns and to beat up Sonic. That is his entire character. He's not supposed to be very deep. He's designed because IDW didn't have anyone just to throw at Sonic for some issues, so they created like two skunks, Ruff and Tumble. And Ian Flynn decided to reference Bebop and Rocksteady with them because everyone kind of looks Bebop and Rocksteady.
Yeah, they're fun to beat up.
Yeah. Now they're not one-to-one Bebop and Rocksteady. They have their own quirks. In fact, Ruff actually is able to use his skunk smell glands as a weapon.
Ruff, use stench attack.
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm
Joffrey,
sorry, I'm just gonna say it right now. He looks like a Pokemon.
he does kind of look like that wolf Pokemon from Sun and Moon. I will not argue that. But then again, some Mobians do.
Mm-hmm. And it's not a
But
terrible thing. It is what it
no,
is.
it's just different art style. It does feel like it fits in better with Sonic's current art style than Joffrey does. And I just don't like Joffrey as a character. He kind of reminds me of a less creepy Pepe Le Pew, but still kind of creepy.
Mm.
Which, again, if you like the Pepe Le Pew comic things from Looney Tunes, that's okay. I just don't think they work very well in a modern setting.
All right, so let's get down to the nitty gritty here. And talk about this for a moment.
Sure.
So, as it currently is, the Sonic series is actually doing pretty well, comic book wise.
They are, like we've been saying, now handled by IDW.
Mm-hmm.
Sega has much more control. Back in the day, this was going on during the Genesis and the Sega Saturn and the Dreamcast era. Sega was very much hands off. Both Sega of America and Sega Japan did not really care that much. After Pender's legal institutions and whatnot, they had to come down more. And that caused some problems with Archie, and eventually IDW got the license. Which sucks because that means if Archie ever gets back Mega Man, which I doubt will ever happen, we'll never get a third Mega Man and Sonic crossover. Unless IDW gets Mega Man, please give them Mega Man Capcom.
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Yeah, it's actually because I saw Ian Flynn writing Mega Man, and then heard he was writing Sonic Universe, and heard Sonic Universe was good. I came back to the franchise. Now, like I've been saying, Penders as a person I don't like, but he still had some good ideas. He still was a decent writer in places. If you like the Penders era, cool.
Now, here's the thing. In my opinion, to really get a huge boost into the Sonic comics, two things have to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, Sega has to take a step back. Don't uninvolve themselves.
No,
But
they're either gripping too hard and the sand is being forced out of their hands, or not even holding the sand.
yeah,
They need to. Like, I like how they currently are. If Ian or any of the writers for IW say, "Hey, we want to introduce a new character," Sega has to come in and go, "Okay, let's help with the design," because this has created Whisper the Wolf, who I adore Whisper the Wolf in the IDW series, Dr. Starline, pretty good character, and Surge and Kitsunami, who are characters I like a lot.
mm-hmm.
Tangle on. But
Eh,
I like that. I like how Sega can look at these characters and go, hey, we want to help design them so we can put them in games, because they put Tangle and Whisper in games. Good. Put the comic characters in the games.
this can be good, but there is such a thing as being too overbearing on this.
Which they really are with Sonic.
Mm-hmm.
He is really not that much. I like how Ian is handling Sonic in these conditions. It's not an easy condition to handle Sonic. But I imagine if he has a little bit more freedom, how much better Sonic would be as a character. Because right now, he's the least interesting part of the comics.
Yeah, and the other thing is, and this will cause, I can already see it, and it will probably never happen.
Mm.
They had to settle the huge thing with Penders and the characters.
Oh, they have.
No, I mean to the point where they acknowledge and bring back any characters that they can, and just run with it.
The only way they can is if Penders has said he will give back his characters if Archie gets Sonic and he has no overhead.
I was meant more like Sally and the Freedom Fighters.
They have those. They don't need to go through Penders to get those. I've already said Sega owns them. Sega just doesn't want to use them.
Well, I honestly think part of the reason that they don't is because while they own the rights, they don't want the connection.
They don't care about Penders. Sega does not care about Penders. They pretty much just ignore him. The problem is, really right now, because if that was the case, when they did the second reboot for Archie, they would never have let Ian use any of the Freedom Fighters. They did. They were using them right up until Archie lost the rights. And when IDW got, Sega basically said, yeah, we're not really interested in using those characters anymore.
Well, then they got to get their interest back in those, because I think they could still be very useful characters.
Ian has said many times in both his tweets and his podcasts, which I've heard are pretty good. I don't really go on Twitter or listen to his podcast, but I've seen a few clips. Anyway, he has said that if Sega lifts the mandate on them, he has ideas on where to throw them in right away.
Because a lot of the original ideas, even from Penders, were pretty solid.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of ways to work around and work with them. But I think a jolt of nostalgia having them back could spark more interest, in my opinion.
Yes, there's a high degree number of Sonic fans who basically said, I will not come back to the Sonic comics until I get my Sonic and Sally shit back. And I'm like, hey, that's you. I know many people who won't return to Spider-Man until Spider-Man's deal with the devil is removed.
Hi, Linkara.
Yeah, he's the main one for that. And I'm like, you know what? When you make a stand on that, that's totally fine. You're allowed to like a series for one thing, and when that one thing goes away, you can drop it. I don't think that makes you any less of a fan. I think that means you were a fan of a specific part of something, but you were still a fan of the franchise. I can give an example of myself for that. I dropped Death Note when L died.
Really?
I didn't come back for years.
Huh.
Because I didn't care for Light. I was only interested in L, and when the last few episodes did not have Light L, I'm like, you know what? I don't care anymore.
To be fair, I was in the same boat.
So yeah, but does that make us less fans of Death Note?
Not as far as I care.
Exactly. If someone says, "Oh, that just makes you fans and all," I'm like, "Well, okay, I'm not a fan of your book, but that's fine." And like, this is really hard not to just rail on Penders, but
Yeah.
this is all that this is the biggest problem with Archie and Sonic comics in general is just the legal snafus. Like this, Sega learned a lot of lessons from this, which okay, makes sense, but they're still a little bit overprotective at times.
Yeah. But I think the biggest thing of this is, like I said, Sega. While, yes, I won't deny that they do have every right to, lack of a better word, dictate what goes on in this comic from owning Sonic.
It is their series.
They need to take a step back and realize this doesn't have to be the game.
No. They are doing what I like. I like how the games and the comics are similar, but I don't want to have to go, all right, between games, I need to read comics.
I mean, if they make reference to certain stories in the game, that's fine. Mm-hmm. I mean, certain adventures they could mention. Yep. I would be opposed to it. It's like, oh, well, this happened. Oh, it happened. And then you find it happened in the comics. You can read what happened in the comics. That's fine.
Yeah.
No harm, no foul on that one. It's not relative to the game in the whole, but it's just something fun to mention.
Yeah.
But.
And I do think the two should have crossover. Like, you should have comic characters in the games and game characters in the comics.
Yeah.
So, put Sally Acorn in a goddamn video game already.
And I will say this one, despite some wonky controls, I do think Sonic Frontiers was promising.
I think it's the best Sonic game we've had since Generations, and that's without the nostalgia goggles of Generations. So, I'm not also discounting Mania. I'm just being 3D. Mania is fantastic. I think,
but in my opinion, I think it should came out maybe next year with a little bit more refinement of controls.
I think the controls are fine, but the thing is, you can't please everybody.
No, but that's just my opinion. I still think it's a fun game, and I love the overworld on it. But we'll talk a lot about the video game maybe in another episode.
Yeah. I think it belongs in Semi-Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, the other biggest problem I think wasted potential is we didn't get a third Mega Man Sonic crossover.
Oh my god, I would love that.
Yeah.
We only got 2, sadly.
And the second one was rushed. I think it was only 16 issues, and Ian wrote 24 issues, and he had to like cram the last few into each other.
Yeah, the last bit of it, you could definitely feel the rush.
Yeah, which people took that as he's a bad writer. I'm like, no, he just wrote too much.
Yeah.
And then he thought, okay, you guys will give me more issues, right? And it was either Capcom or Sega or Archie. But like, no, we said this number, you get this number.
I mean, I can probably see that at least some of it was probably not needed.
Yes.
Like maybe like 1 or 2 issues, maybe.
Yeah. And all the cameo characters, maybe not so much.
Oh my god, that huge war. Oh, those poor artists.
I mean, it's not as bad as some of the DC crossover stuff.
Oh god.
But still, having Ryu and Ryu. and there were 2 Dragon Breath of Fire Ryus in that series, right? For like one panel. And there's Ryu from Street Fighter.
Quick, send Shadow Man. Which one?
I love that joke. Yours or mine?
We will go over that comic at some point. I promise.
Yeah, the the first Mega Man Sonic crossover definitely is semi-perfect.
Yeah.
Not so sure about the second one. Like I want it to be perfect.
I'll
but
have
that
to
just-
reread it, but I like them
that
both.
that might just be my fanboyism. Like I might be ignoring all the flaws that one had. Which, yes, that one person I was in a comment section once. I am not an Ian stan. I like the guy's writing, but my God, when the man gets going, he can kind of just over-explain shit.
I just like the two of them playing rock, paper, scissors to decide anything and just constantly tying.
Yes, yeah,
It's the little things.
yeah.
But we'll have to lead this adventure on this strange world. And we'll have to continue this another adventure on yet another strange world. With a fancy car.
I've come up with a new recipe. Yep. And then next time we're gonna do Final Fantasy 15, and I believe we're gonna have a special guest for that as well, a friend of Souls.
Mm-hmm.
And is it a semi-perfect or a waste of potential episode?
This is going to be a waste of potential.
I can agree to that.
Because without spoiling too much, there is a lot of love and a lot of tweaking this game needed.
I also feel like the plot kind of has too much in one place, and then it's just nothing for hours.
Mm-hmm. But it's a really nice car.
Oh yeah, I love that car.
Until you crash it.
I about the 14 version.
But this is Soul signing off.
And this is them saying good night.
I hope you enjoyed and will join us next time.
Thanks for being here, guys and gals.